Welcome everyone to another Pixelated review. I'm your host, Pixelated Jordan. So, I know I've been gone for a while, mostly because, well, procrastination. I don't think I need to explain it, but you know how it is around here. Anyway, I thought one last video for the end of the year. And what better way to end out the year than a top 10. Now, I am currently reading a book right now, and I am enjoying it, so if anything else, this will get an honorable mention at the end of the video and other books like that. But beyond that, at the time of recording, this right here is my top 10 of 2024. This year, I read a total of 89 books. Last year, I read 100. This year, a little less, but that's okay. But regardless, I am going to put in the books I think were the best this year. Now, this kind of goes with series overall, maybe a single book here and there, but mainly if it's complete the story, it's most likely going to make a cut here. So, with that being said, without a further ado, let's start this review. Number 10. Archibald Lox. It's about a story about a boy who discovers he can unlock portals into the dead world. This is written by Darren Shan, the guy who wrote Cirque the Freak and Deepanada. He released this as a self-published book, and though there is entertainment value here, it's not as great as what came before, which I shouldn't be comparing to because it's definitely a different series altogether. But as much as I would not compare it, I have to compare it. The Deepanada and Cirque du Freak had a lot of going on, and certainly Archibald Lox does too. Unfortunately, it does not have as much capability as the other ones said here. It's kind of boring. There's a sport they play a lot in there called grop, and I understand that's their culture, but man, it's constantly there, and it feels so much around a grop that I really can't really not understand it, just can't really get with it, if that makes sense. So, though it is on this list at top 10, it could have been better, and maybe I'm just comparing it by Cirque du Freak and Deepanada standards, but the point is, though, I hope that this one right here doesn't discourage you, because it is an enjoyable book. There is enjoyable stuff at the end, so I do say it does. I do recommend a read for this one. It is short, it's sweet, and yeah, overall there is some creative aspects where I generally thought it was fun. So overall, give it a check. Why not? It's a good story overall. So check out Archibald Lox. Number 9. The Janitors. The Janitors are a very easy story to understand. It's like, if you read Fablehaven, honestly, that's kind of the thing about it. If you read Fablehaven, you're going to understand the Janitors, except it's about janitors, and then it's a school setting. But if you understand how the magic system works in Fablehaven, about how people can see magic and all that stuff, then you understand how the Janitors work. Which is like a hard-pressed thing to say, it's all like, oh, so they just stole from the Fablehaven. I'm like, kinda, because they do need a special thing to see these creatures and magical creatures and all that, but it does differentiate enough to be germs related. But at the end, it in the story, it is played for laugh. It kind of doesn't take itself too seriously, but it never truly wowed me as Fablehaven had, and that's the big thing. Fablehaven wowed me, and this right here felt like it wanted to recreate that in a sense, but unfortunately for me, it did hit a shadow mark of a where it's like, it's not as good, but it's good in its own right, and I can see people liking this story still regardless, because it is a fun story still. It's just not as great as if I compare it to Fablehaven before, but I give this a shot still. If you're someone looking for something similar to Fablehaven, this is it. The Janitors is a fun series, so give it a read. I think you'll like it. Number 8. Alcatraz by Brandon Sanders. So, I saw this book and I was kind of curious about it, and the thing that made me curious was just kind of how things work in the universe. Everyone's good at something, and it's really like a bad thing technically, like whoever is a part of the Alcatraz family, like For example, our main character, he's really good at breaking things, which is his power, which is a fun twist. And that's something I can definitely say there is some enjoyment here of this series of having that, like all the family cast having a a kind of faulty power. For example, the old man, the grandpa, I love him. He's a funny character. He's always late to everything. So, like the way they show that too is like they shoot him and then he arrives late to the shot of the bullet, which is so funny to me. And so that means basically the grandpa's immortal because he's arriving late to his death. And I think that is by far the most hilarious thing about the grandpa. Anyway, beyond that, I think the thing that bugs me most about the story, I really have to mention this. As much as I did enjoy a lot of it, there's one thing holding me back so much. And that is the way the narration is. Alcatraz, it's told in the first person, but Alcatraz has the audacity, alright, I mean this in a nice way possible, to stop the story to tell you, the audience, things about the book. And I get it, he's trying to explain it, it's in the universe's lore, and it's comedic, and I know it doesn't take it seriously, but man, I hate that narration. Like, in Nevernight? Yes. In Nevernight, I said the same complaint, and this one is nothing but that. The only reason I slightly accepted more is because it's part of the comedy of the story, so it's like, I understand why you're doing it, I just don't like that you're doing it. Does that make sense? But overall, this is a funny story. If you can get past the narration part of it, if stopping the story, I think this is an enjoyable ride. But overall, this is how I feel about it. It's my number 8, but still a good story overall. Number 6. The Chronicles of Vladimir Tod. It seemed very similar to Certain Freak, and I did want to see how it was, because I remember my mom reading this book and liking it compared to that, and I kind of wanted to see it too. Now, it is compared because the main character does have a vampire-esque feel, which is, arguably pretty darn cool. Unfortunately, though, I do not like it that much. The character, at least, Vladimir kind of sucks, but overall the story does have a lot of vibe to it, and it is charming in its own right. One of the things I don't like is definitely the main villain, who constantly comes back, who I think is always dead, but he always finds a way to come back somehow. I can't figure out why still. Anyway, it is charming, it does have its fun, it does take itself somewhat seriously when it comes to certain vampire powers, which is honestly a really cool thing that it does. But unfortunately, though, it's not as good as what I would assume it would have been, but it's still fun to enjoy because of the dynamic of the characters, the fun wittiness of some characters' actions, and it is something to look at. So, generally speaking, I think it is a solid series overall. It's just that if you're comparing it to other books that you think should be compared to, this one's not it, but it is a good series in its own right, so I do recommend it overall. So check out the Chronicles of Vladimir Tod. Number 5. Pendragon. So I know I've been kind of being a little, not a negative and antsy, but I just do want to say these are just my comparisons of what I've read this year. So that's just how I'm looking at it. Anyway, what I liked about Pendragon, it really was how things were just expanding and how every world was truly different. They really felt like they branched off and how it all worked. And I like that about Pendragon. The thing about Pendragon, the character, he is generally really good. I do like the third person point of view from the characters from his world, and then the first person from writing his journals. I think those are amazing feats to have. Now, I do think there are certain things that I felt like kind of made up on the spot. For example, like the journal making and having someone else to handle it, to keep these journals. That felt kind of like out of nowhere at first, because it seemed like at the beginning no one else is supposed to know, apparently. But anyway, that's just how the world just kind of works. The problem with Pendragon, just kind of similarly to the Janitors, it never truly wowed me in any sense. And that's kind of the thing about this year for me. Not a lot of books wowed me, like when I was Fable, Haven, Cirque du Freak, Skullduggery, Pleasant, and just the list goes on for there. This year I was kind of okay. These things are not completely wowed, and that's kind of why I feel like I'm kind of below negative. But trust me, I'm trying not to. It's just by comparison. But Pendragon is a good series, it's a complete series, and there is absolutely everything going on from beat for beat for beat. There's a rhyme and reason for things. It does take a while to get to those reasons, and trust me, those reasons takes too long sometimes. But it does pay off in the end, and I do think it's really entertaining. So Pendragon definitely is a good read, and I really think people should check it out.
Number 4.
The Dead. Man, this one was entertaining, from action-packed to fast-paced. It was truly a lot of fun. I really don't have too much negative things to say other than how I wish there could have been more and how I felt like it wasn't enough of the story, which is something that I complain about that, but that's just me because I wanted more of the series, and that's something how I feel about it. But overall, it is a genuine fun story about a kid fighting the dead, and he gets powerful, and I mean he gets powerful. And it's so entertaining to see that, because I generally like how the character acts, I generally like how the character works out. It's a general really fun, fast-paced book that I wish there could have been more, and that's why it's kind of low on this list for me. I just wish there was more, but I really do recommend it because it is a lot of fun.
Number 3.
The Teslanauts. Let me tell you, the Teslanauts has only 2 books out at the time of recording, and it has been a blast. It's electrically fun. See what I did there? And it takes place in the 1920s after the Great War, or for us, the World War I. And it does have a good fun time. There's a secret society of Teslanaut people in Tesla's back, and it just comes out super fun. The second book definitely is the reason why it's up here so high, because the second book just decided to add more action, more just everything that I think that they should have had in the first book. It just kept going, and the Teslanauts just, God, it was a lot of fun. And I'll admit it, like in the second book, man, Tesla himself came out like Gojo from JJK, like he was up there. So, with that being said, I definitely say check out Teslanaut because it's generally a fun book.
Number 2.
The Apex Cycle. What a fun trilogy. This is the amount of trilogy where I sit there and say, you know what? It ends perfectly. There's no more for it. And that's something I think the trilogy does well. Because when I talked about the Dead trilogy, how I wish there was more, this one makes me go, no. This is an end, and I really do enjoy it. Basically, if you like superhero stuff, something similar to My Hero, but not all the way, this one breaks that. Like, this one is just that and then some. But if there's one way I guess definitely say about our main character, how she is, she's complicated but simple.
Number 1.
Lockdown. Man, this series kicked butt. Let me tell you, I thought it was like some kind of just, bad kids go to jail, but it's also not bad, but technically the main character was bad. But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. This is generally a fun series, and it's a dark series, but it doesn't take itself that... Well, no, it takes itself seriously. What am I lying? It's just a series that it takes itself seriously, but it also does so much, legwork and just room for the characters that it's just so much fun to see. And the brutality. And this is a young adult novel. I just want to point it out there. This is some of the most brutal things I've seen since Demonata. And Demonata is brutal. So, if you had anything to compare Demonata to for a young adult audience, this right here is a good comparison, and it does a great job at doing that. If there's anything I can say, check this book out, because this right here is definitely my number 1 of 2024. And that is it, my guys. So I hope you all have enjoyed the video. This has been, a year that where I felt like, man, I wish I could have had more books to read. But, I did. I still read 89 books overall. So I can't really complain too much about it. And hopefully next year I find even more books to read and generally have a much more fun time with them. And so, yeah. if there's anything else next year I definitely want planned for, I want to make more videos doing reviews, book reviews, and all that good stuff, because I do like doing it. It's just procrastination. But also, I'm also a full-time employee, and I'm also an author. So I would tell you right now, if you want to read Unborn Ghost, it's available right now for physical, ebook, and audio. And then check out my second book, Devil's Spider. It's on physical and ebook, not audio yet, but that will be coming sooner in 2025. So, I hope you guys all enjoyed these videos this year, and I hope to make more next year. So, with that being said, thank you all for everything you guys done. I thank you all for watching my videos and subscribing. And I hope you all have a great year of 2025. Thank you for watching.